shadow sexuality. So this has entered my world a number of times over the last couple of weeks. I often get bombarded with whatever a specific lesson is from a number of people or a number of areas until I integrate it and I realize, this is what's happening. So what I've seen around me, and I'm going to speak generally about women because the lessons I've received really are more around women, and I work with more women than I do men. So I also work with sexual energy in helping people to awaken and raise their sexual energy. So often our sexuality can become dormant. People raise kids or the relationship dies off or whatever it may be. And we lose our sexuality, which is extremely purposeful and healthy, natural, loving, fulfilling. So it's about rebuilding that sexual connection with our own bodies and ourselves and our ultimately our self-esteem and self-worth, and then bringing that being, if we're moved and if the opportunity arises, to someone else, to a partner. So often women think that, they're not meeting men who are good lovers or who are intimate or who are passionate or whatever. And I would always say that begins with the woman. It begins with your connection and relationship with your own body and with your own sexual energy. If you don't have that foundation with yourself, how can you expect someone else to present that frequency and that experience to you? But more to the point of this video. What happens during shadow work or during any spiritual development or awakening or expansion is we become freer. Brilliant. But there needs to be a level of groundedness and self-awareness, continued self-awareness, to see what's happening in this expansion and in this new freedom. Otherwise, the ego does invest and the ego takes off. And what I've seen multiple times now over the last number of weeks, and it's unnerved me and it's changed my dynamic of communication with the women I work with. I'll tell you why. As sexual energy moves and we become sexually freer, for women, men tend to notice them more. Women tend to notice the men. They're enjoying the attention, the attraction. But often that's a big boost to the ego. There's chemicals involved, the excitement, I'm sexy, I'm free, all this kind of stuff, which I'm quite uncomfortable about because there's a middle ground. There's sexual power and freedom, and then there's being in the ego and at the mercy of the ego. Now, the reason I say that I'm uncomfortable about it is that pretty much all women, or certainly all women I encounter, are carrying, and men, we're all carrying sexual trauma. So through your ancestry and your family line, only 100, 200 years ago, depending on what part of the world you were in, we were raping each other and killing each other, and it was pretty brutal. And even in today's times, obviously, in some parts of the world, it's still extremely brutal. And we're sharing this collective consciousness and energy. So that frequency is within you. You're not beyond that frequency. You're, in fact, more at risk, I would say, and I'd say you're more at risk if you think you're beyond it. Or if you think, I've integrated that, I've moved on, I'm a goddess. Well then, I ain't working with you because you're deluded. We will continually encounter these frequencies. That's part of life. To be grounded and aware enough to navigate them and work through them. The other alternative is to be deluded and think that I am a sexual goddess and I am free and I will only draw in kings, respectful, honourable men. I'm quite uneasy with that and I do encounter those women. That's dangerous. That's ungrounded. It's unrealistic. Look at the world we're living in. Even if you glance back through your previous sexual experiences, I guarantee you'll find moments that you were not completely invested in having sex at times, that you didn't really feel into it. Maybe there was drink or drugs involved. Maybe you didn't feel completely safe with this person. Maybe you did it for him. Loads of little reasons. And then it could be a lot worse. Maybe you were sexually abused. Maybe you were raped. Maybe there was violence involved. So all those degrees are all recorded in your body, in your being, in your cells, muscle memory, and in the gateways, the sexual genitals up through the cervix and up to the womb. It's recorded. Why do many women not orgasm during penetration? And the reason, or a reason, is safety. So they want the interaction, they want the physicality, they want the pleasure, they want the connection with their partner. But on some deep level, they're not letting go. They're not safe. They don't feel safe. And it's not completely related to the partner. It's related to them not being at home with them, being at peace with them, often having encountered the grief and pain or abuse or whatever it may be. Just to make peace with that, acknowledge it's there, that piece of us, bring it home, be grounded and be aware. And then we're able to navigate these people and moments and sexual interactions to know how safe we feel and how purposeful this connection is. So in speaking back and forth with a friend the other day, she mentioned the phrase "in heat." And that really resonated with me immediately. I'm seeing women who, in a sense, as they get freer sexually or with their energy, they're releasing this scent, like animals, of in heat. It's cool, nothing wrong with that. But as men are presented then or enter their lives, they get carried away in the excitement that they're attractive and sexy again, and he's handsome, or he's into me, or he's wealthy, or he's whatever. And they step away in those moments from the instinct and the gut. They're not in the flow of the heart. They're in a flow, all right, but it's a flow of chemicals. It's a flow of the ego, self-importance, how sexy I am, how free I am, all this lovely stuff. It's a nice roller coaster. It's a ride of self-importance, inflated ego. And that runs its course. And often, as you know yourself, we often indulge in that, and then we find ourselves in tricky situations, maybe in a relationship with someone that I knew on some level it wasn't right, wasn't meant to be with this person, or I don't feel safe with this person, or he seems a bit more nasty than I thought he was, than I thought he was originally. Now maybe you knew he was originally, but you wanted to ignore that because you were enjoying the inflated self-esteem. I'm sexual, I'm young, I'm fucking whatever. But it's all ego. Now, in my work, I'm pushing people more and more to be grounded, fucking grounded all the time. Because the problem with this newfound flow of sexual energy is, yes, you draw in everything, drawn in all men. And women like to think, I've worked through some of my shadow now, so I'm drawing in higher men. Maybe you are. Maybe you're drawing in more shadow. Maybe you're drawing in men who look fantastic, who are gentle and handsome and all the rest, to test yourself, to see, can you really read this person? Or are you just going to be seduced by the words and the stuff, the barrage of a new relationship? Can you be grounded and centered enough to follow your instinct and your gut, woman's intuition? Or will you get carried away? So these wonderful men that are approaching, anything can be presented here. The scent, the in heat, is also drawing in predators who are unknowingly being drawn in to your sexual trauma and your abuse, the still remaining unintegrated, or the rawness of your heart, the vulnerability, being drawn into that to abuse. They don't know it. They're not aware. They're not aware of what they're doing. So it's your responsibility to be centered and grounded in that. For me, it's tending to slow down my work with people, to be more careful. I don't want to be sending women out in the world who are strong, independent, sexual women. I'm not really interested in that. I think it's a fucking nonsense. It's more fluffy, nonsensical spirituality. I want powerful women. I want women who are fucking grounded and centered, who can feel the predator or the reliable, solid male, or whatever it may be in the world. That's all I want. That's what my work is. If people are paying me for a service, that's where I'm taking them. And then they can feel themselves of what their higher self, their own guidance is telling them and directing them. I don't give a fuck if they're sexy or not, if they're getting attention from men or not. All that shit's fleeting. It passes. It's like the nice career, the nice whatever, the nice car. All that shit passes. If you're at peace with you, if you're grounded with you and centered in your power and your spirituality, you'll find the right people. They'll come to you, and you'll be able to navigate in each moment how safe you are, how comfortable you are, how suitable you are or they are for you. That's the place to be. It's continually evolving. We don't just get there, done, shadow integrated, box ticked, now a goddess. That doesn't happen. It's continual. Again and again. So if you listen to my stuff, or if you work with me or have worked with me, if you consider that you're working on your shadow or evolving spiritually, I would suggest to continually be aware of your instinct, continually ground, be centered, be aware, and notice yourself when he or they text you or like your post or fall in love with you or whatever the fuck it is. Do you go to space? Do you get carried away in that fucking cloud of self-importance, and indulgence of daydreaming? Can you be centered? It's nice to have those feelings. I'm not against that at all. But we're working now at a time with people who are, this isn't a waking up. This is far deeper. It's a far deeper frequency of purging that sexual dysfunction or pain or grief or abuse. It's powerful stuff, and we paid a high price in gathering that wisdom and experience. It was all highly purposeful. It wasn't a problem or a mistake or evil or bad or any of that kind of thing. It's highly purposeful. Paid the price. Let's not pay the price again. Let's not have to get I didn't get the lesson the last 56 times, I'm going to get it again. Let's be present and grounded enough that we can bank that experience in emotion and move forward into something more purposeful, not something egoic, the inflated ego of how free we now are, and I'm so evolved and ascended. I'm such a sexual goddess. I don't mind you being a sexual goddess when you're grounded, but I'm uneasy when I see it when you're ungrounded, because shit happens and it ain't pleasant. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll leave some links below, and any questions or comments, be free to get in touch or comment under the videos or podcasts or whatever. Thanks.